Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. And this has been a long-awaited video for my Twitter community, at least. I'm going to be doing a comparison and ranking of all the mouse gates I've tried and tested, and we'll be releasing a Google Sheet that shows my comparison and my recommendations for everything that's alongside this video. So first, we're going to talk about just the mice that I've tried and the pads I've tried them on. So here is just a small collection of mice that I've tried with different skates. And I have everything here from really quick pads to the quickest of dots to the slowest of dots. And there's some outliers here that I really like, and some other mice that and some skates I really don't like. And I'm missing a couple, but that's just because I've either sold the mice or I've sold the skates by now. And this video, I am doing something a little bit different. I'm doing two camera point of views. So we have this camera view over here. And then we have my main top-down camera. So this will give more of like an interesting perspective, at least something new I want to try for this video. But yeah, let's get started. So one thing I do want to note is that all of the skates that I've tested were all tested on the same mouse pad, and for the same continuous about a week or two for most of them. So like for say I have here these Superglides, V1s. They are probably the worst skates I've ever tried in my life. And this is not something I could recommend ever to anyone ever. They're absolutely awful. And I've tried these for about a week and a half, 2 weeks straight, and they're just consistently the worst skate I've tried. But I gave these the exact amount of play time as I did for stuff like the X-Ray Pad Obsidians or the core pads, like just default core pads. So it's kind of like a mix of I've tried everything for a very long amount of time, all on the same mouse pad. If not the Saturn Pro, things very close to like the Artisan Zero or the Infinite Control. So that's kind of a perspective on where I'm coming from with a lot of my ranking of these skates. And right now I am using the Superglide. That's because I just recently got this. So it's a lot more of I'm just trying it out, you feel me? So first I want to start with the stock skates and just how I feel they rank compared to a lot of other skates. And for stock, we're going to move everything away that is not stock skates. And that's pretty much everything. I don't keep a lot of stock skates on a lot of mice. But on my ranking, I've ranked the Lamzu, G-Wolves, Razor, Pulsar, and a couple of others. Right now, I currently only have Razor and Pulsar, and the Razor stock skates I put on the list for a 3. They are an okay speed, okay consistency, and glide. They work on pretty much everything, and I don't see a reason to buy new skates unless you absolutely need new skates. That if you have a newer Razor mouse, you're probably not going to need to swap these out anytime soon. They're very good, very consistent, and I've had zero issues with a lot of these. On the Pulsar skates, on the other hand, a lot of them are really solid, but if you want to count, this is the Max Gaming X Lite Mini, and this has Superglides as stock. So if you want to count that as stock skates, these are awful, while the actual Pulsar stock skates are really good, and I've had no issues with these ever. And this kind of falls in line with a lot of the stock skates, where a lot of them are really good out of the box, and I would only really recommend changing your skates unless you, if you absolutely have to. And that's where a lot of these other options are coming in. So let's get to talk about more of the aftermarket skates and how I feel about a lot of those skates. All right, so we're just going to get into a couple of the ones that I've tested out and tried here. We have these have core pads on it. We have the Gulong ovals. I'm counting these as pads, even though they're kind of technically dots. And we're counting both Superglide V1 and V2. And then we're counting the Spire slides. These are OCE only, so New Zealand, Australia, anywhere in that region. The only place you can get these skates at. But they're very similar to Tiger Ice, and I don't really have any of my Tiger skates anymore because I've sold pretty much all the mice that had Tiger Ice or Tiger Arc or Tiger anything. So let's start talking about them. So out of all the skates that I've tried and tested, core pads are probably the most consistent out of all of them. I absolutely love them. And if you're looking for new pad skates to try out, these are probably the ones that I recommend the most. They're pretty much for every mouse you can ever imagine. They have a skate for you, and it's something that is just mad consistent. I've never had issues with core pads. They're smooth on every surface. The Saturn Pro, they really shine on control pads, because they give you that nice balance without being too quick like some dots and not digging in like some other type of dots. And it's the same thing with glass. They feel really smooth on glass, and it's just a good playing experience. Going on to the Superglides, we're going to go on to just from slow to quick immediately. The Superglides are two different stories here. So the Superglide V1s that came on the X-Lite V2 Mini, they're awful. And I've had two sets of Superglides. I've had the Superglides for the Superlight, and I've had the Superglides for the X-Lite. And the larger surface area on the Superlight just makes them absolutely unplayable in most circumstances, and on the Superlight they're a little bit smaller, but I've noticed this issue where when you're pressing down on cloth surfaces, it's really hard to get a sturdy grip or control because they're really slippery. Like, they're very slippery compared to the Superglide V2s, where I recently got these when I got the Pulsar sleeves, and these are a massive improvement. On a lot of different mouse pads that I've tried these on the SV Base, Zero, Saturn Pro, a lot of the X-Ray pads. I've tried these on pretty much every mouse pad you can imagine that's relatively popular. And these are the most consistent glass skates I've tried to date. But I also haven't tried mini glass skates, so that's kind of like a take this with a grain of salt type of moment. But these are a massive improvement from the original Superglides that I feel like if we were to recommend any of these, Superglide V2s, instant recommend. Superglide V1s, throw your Superglide V1s away. Please upgrade your skates to something better. Now we're going to go to the Superlight and the G Pro wireless skates I put on. These are the OCE only Spire slides. These on my list landed around a 3 for speed. They're kind of quick but kind of controlled at the same time. They're really similar to Tiger Ice, except they're really an OCE only. So that makes these kind of like a not recommend if you're not an OCE, because you literally can't buy them. But if you live in OCE and you want to support a small company, the Spire slides are literally just Tiger Ice. They're really good, really consistent, and I've had zero issues with these ever. So it's kind of like, if we're going for top recommendations for pad skates, Core pads, Superglide V2s, and Tiger Ice Arcs or the Spire slides are all top recommendations for pads. There's really nothing on the market that can really compare or compete to these three contenders for skates. And now we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, I guess, the Gulong or AliExpress ovals. These are an AliExpress skate. They're ovals. They're very thin, and they're okay. They have a little bit of quickness on certain surfaces. But on most control pads, since they're not rounded edges, they're really like rough. So on something like an Xsoft Saturn, they're really inconsistent. But on something like a mid Zero, like I said, I tested these on a lot of similar surfaces. So something like the mid Zero or the SV Base Control Plus, where they have a lot more firmer of a base, I'm not noticing that same inconsistency issue that I was with rounded out skates like the Core pads or the Spire slides. So yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about a lot of the pads. These are the three pads that I recommend, are the Core pads, Superglide V2s, not the V1s, and the Spire slides. They all offer something a little bit different. Spire slides being a little bit slower and more controlled than the Superglides, but still quicker than the Core pads in every single regard. And now finally, I want to get to probably the most controversial part of this video, and that are dot skates and how they've just blown up in popularity recently. And here we have a couple of my favorite options for dot skates. Here we have the X-Ray Pad Obsidians. These are probably my all-time favorite skate ever. Like, these are quick, they're controlled. No, they're quick, they're cheap, they're dots. And I really don't see a reason to not get Obsidians if you're looking at getting dots. They have really cool red color on them. And I think they're uncoated. They're using hardened PTFE. So they just last really long. I'm wrong. The X-Ray Pad Obsidians are not using hardened PTFE. The Jades are using hardened PTFE. And they're really quick at first. And then give it about, I would say, 2 weeks of use on something like a glass pad, they will wear down to the speed of the Obsidians. But if using them on a control pad, they kind of keep that same consistency for a while because they're not recommended to be used on glass pads. So that's kind of how I feel about these. These are some of the best skates on the market, X-Ray Pad Obsidians and Jades, or the other way around, Jades and Obsidians. There's really nothing on the market quite like these, and they're just super effective and good for the price. And these on my G Pro here, I'm using G-Wolves dots. Just if you have a set of G-Wolves dots, they're okay. They're not top recommendations. They're you feel me? Like, they're dots. If anything, they have a lot of speed, but because of the G-Wolves skate type, I really don't know what it is with G-Wolves skates, but they're really slow and like muddy. So on a lot of more controlled surfaces, they're awful. But on like more firmer surfaces like FSB Base Control Plus, Artisan Mid, the Ambition Mid, it's a lot better of a playing experience, but still pretty bad compared to other dot options that I just explained, the X-ray pad obsidians and jades. I would just kind of steer clear of these as well. Now, this is probably going to be the most controversial part of the video, and that is I was recently gifted the Ghost Glide Edge Runners, I believe they're called, for just the dots, and I was gifted these and the Ghost Glide Focus Mousepad, which I do have a review coming up on very soon. But the skates I noticed are almost identical to the AliExpress dots that I recommend everybody. They're $3 and they come with more. It's 40 dots for $3 and they're unmatched when it comes to price and performance. And the Ghost Glides are just that. They're just the X-ray pad. They're just the AliExpress dots, or people call them the Gulong dots. That's pretty much what they are in every single regard. Like if we do a slide test on a glass surface, this is the AliExpress dots. Relatively quick. They have a lot of speed. And if we go to the Ghost Glide Edge Runners, it's the same thing. They feel the same. The packaging is very similar. The user experience is very similar. And I feel like if you're trying to get budget dots, the AliExpress dots are the way to go. There's not a single skate that I would recommend over the AliExpress dots if you're on a tight budget and don't mind the waiting period for AliExpress items. And the only plus side for the Edge Runners is that you get them from a reputable brand and you could probably get a refund if anything. But you get less. They cost like 4 times more. And they're really hard recommends for me. But yeah, that should be it for this entire video. Like I said, this is going to be more of a longer video because this is more going over all of my top recommendations for skates. And in the description, you will see a document of all the skates that I've tried and tested and all of my notes on the skates. And that is more for future reference. I will be updating it with other skates I've tried. I have a lot of skates I do want to try. So I'll be really excited to just see that list update and become really massive with a lot of skates from a lot of different brands. I will also be offering a community-backed version of the document. So if you want to help me test different skates and add on to the Google Sheet, I will be putting a Google form in the description as well. And I'm going to be accepting probably like max 10 people. So if you do want to help contribute to this list, this is open to any reviewers, anyone who's really passionate about peripherals. And yeah, just sign up there and I will pick out select few people to help me test as many skates as I possibly can. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. That should cover most of the skates. If you have any questions or any skates you want to have me try, don't be afraid to put that in the description. Or don't be afraid to put that in the comments. And I will see you guys in the next video.